Alright everyone, yet another site has decided to deplatform someone under circumstances that don't appear to make full sense, and that's Wordpress actually. Here's the thing. Like, I've got a Wordpress, and it's just a literary blog, so I don't worry about it like getting kicked off or something. But it's like the reason why I made it is specifically I'm like, well, you know, Google is getting more censored, maybe I won't be welcome there at some point. If they kick me off all their services, there goes my literary blog. It's attached to the same accounts as like my YouTube channel because it's through Google. So I'd better, you know, replicate it on WordPress. Now I see WordPress doing the same. It is a mistake. It's a terrible precedent to set for sites which are platforms to simply kick people off on a constant basis. And in many cases, nobody's being told why they're being kicked off, like with Gavin. He wasn't given, as far as I know, a specific reason why his Twitter account was taken down. With InfoWars, in multiple cases, YouTube came out and said it was suspension evasion. So in other words, they were saying, hey, it's just totally coincidental that this is happening on the same day as Facebook that says it was the result of a flagging brigade that Zuckerberg sat there and had to decide whether that meant it was in bad faith and they shouldn't take the pages down or take them down as one strike and not kick them off the platform or whatever. Twitter comes out, says it won't, but now it sandboxes InfoWars for a week. So things are moving pretty quickly. And remember, again, it's always darkest before dawn. What's happening right now is that people with normie consciousnesses are finally waking up to the fact that corporations are fundamentally attempting to tell them what they can and cannot think, and what news and so forth they can or cannot absorb. As far as I know, Dyer's site it's not exactly a cesspit of bigotry, if you know what I'm saying. His views are not, you know, far out there. He's obviously, he's not jackbooting around, in other words. And this has been a consistent trait of everyone who's being attacked on these sites. It's certainly the result of brigading. Somebody's flagging the material, and it's not just, hey, one person flagged one post. You don't get your WordPress site taken down completely simply because you had one fart joke on there that somebody got offended by. So if there's no systemic problem with you actually violating the TOS, obviously it's the result of brigading. Someone behind the scenes is doing something. It wasn't WordPress's people itself. Again, it's just like YouTube's own moderators didn't make the primordial decision to ban InfoWars. Facebook's own moderators didn't. Zuckerberg even alludes to that fact. Well, yeah, they're being like flagged constantly. It's like, well, maybe this is a bad faith attack. Of course it was. It was being orchestrated by some NGOs that probably met in a fucking boardroom somewhere, and they got together with their bot accounts and their page shills and their CNN buddies and stuff, and they got together and said, how can we start fucking our competitors? Because what we're doing isn't working. You know, trying to simply defame them constantly isn't doing enough. Having them fiscally deplatformed through Adpocalypse isn't doing enough. It's not slowing them down. I thought once we robbed them of a bunch of their money by fucking around on these sites, they would go away and get 9-to-5s and stop making content, but it hasn't worked. Oh my God, we're being outcompeted by a bunch of people that sit in their houses with a webcam. What are we to do? And so Dyer gets kicked off of his own site. I think he's still got Twitter and YouTube and stuff, so it's not, he hasn't been fully deplatformed. So far, the only person who's been fully deplatformed was InfoWars. I wonder why. Could it be those millions of subscribers? Could it be their massive growth rate? Could it be the fact that they're just pissed off at Alex Jones because he's like a lightning rod for criticism from people? Politically, maybe they lean further to the left. It's like Halquist just won the Democratic primary here. Oh, I can't wait. I might have to make a 5th video because I already had 4 lined up, so I'm going to see what I can do. But no, WordPress shouldn't do this. Sites that stay above the fray, I'm going to give them advice again, just from this perspective of understanding the history of moral panics. If you delve into the moral panic and you begin banning people or suspending people, algorithmically demoting them or whatever, temporarily it benefits you. Because, of course, if you don't do that, you're going to face that same pitchfork-waving crowd that's pissed off at one of your users will be pissed off at you. We saw this with Twitter. They were like, oh, Alex Jones is being kicked off these sites. Hooray, hooray, because, somehow after years and years of him existing, Alex Jones all of a sudden is a major problem for us. It's because CNN told him that they were a problem. They literally ran hit pieces on this. Right Wing Watch and BuzzFeed and all these groups constantly make hit pieces on the independent creator community. InfoWars is technically missing link media. It's not even fully independent. It is a corporate movement. Alex Jones runs a business. It's not, there are some regulations he does adhere to. He just happens not to have a multinational parent company telling him what to say. You gotta understand, these sites will be hounded by the mob if they don't deplatform. The problem is this: once you have done it once, they're going to want you to do it again because they think you're a pushover. This is how the moral panic will inevitably die, because those mobs will get louder and louder and angrier and angrier. There will come a point at which these sites will say, hey, you're asking us to kick off every significant user on our platform. Where does it end? Well, we're not doing it anymore. And these sites will stonewall, and the mob will get louder and louder, and they will exhaust themselves. Once they realize that these sites eventually, inevitably will have to tell them no, they will go home. They will finally be defeated. They'll go home and they'll cry about it. Corporate media, meanwhile, will probably let off the throttle the second that they see any substantial growth in their audiences online. Yeah, reducing stress on them would definitely take some of the attacking away. I just think that we should do the opposite, just grind them out of existence. They don't deserve to exist. All they do is exist to lie anyway. They're the ones that failed to make the successful transition into a world in which the internet is dominant for news and entertainment. They're the ones that made shitty business decisions. Now they're trying to recoup their losses by attacking their competitors through only the most slimy and sometimes illegal of methods. Would it rise, by the way, to the level of criminal harassment if the same group of people is hounding the same group or organization and trying to deplatform them, often against the site's own TOS online? I think it would. I think what happened to InfoWars rises to the level of criminal harassment. I think that InfoWars should look into trying to get some lawmaker to look into that fact. That's what I think they should do, because I have a feeling it was the same group of people flagging them cross-platform. I have a feeling that these people were working together in a coordinated effort, and that it's the result of a corporate trust, essentially, with the corporate media. Like the big cable and big newsprint, a few dozen really large firms that sub-own a lot of the others, they've got a trust. They don't compete with one another. They're only competing with the alt media now. And these sites, if they make the mistake of too often deplatforming and abusing people as part of the current dying paradigm moral panic, they will lose long term. Look, short term, it means that the mob doesn't attack you and your site. It says wonderful things about you. They'll say, oh, we think that Zuckerberg's great because he deplatforms hate. Long term, though, when the paradigm flips over, it will be understood that most of the time, those deplatformings and abuses were the result of mobs of people that were mindless and corporate shills, and that they weren't legitimate, and those people that you abused will be the ones that are actually heralded as the good guys long term. You will then, by default, be labeled a bad guy, even if you come out with the excuse and say, well, we were facing constant threats from this large number of motivated people, so we had to do something. It's not going to matter. That'll just make you look like a coward. My advice to all big tech firms is to stop deplatforming anyone. Change your TOS and stop even policing for offensive content. That's literally the best thing that you could do right now, and that's not a joke. If you want to have one of the biggest domain registrar services with the most traffic long term, I suggest you make it clear to everyone. You should put out a presser and say, hey, we're the one registrar that is not going to deplatform your website simply because you put things on there that we find objectionable. Literally a free speech registrar. You set that up, you can make all sorts of extra money. It'll take a while. You'll definitely face some repercussions short term. Hit pieces will be written about you. You'll be defamed. You'll get doxxed along with everyone else you know. But long term you'll win, because you'll become a martyr. That's exactly what'll happen. Look at what's happening to InfoWars. Look at all the free publicity they get. They get kicked off by Vimeo. Think of it. How many of the people that heard that name yesterday even knew that such a fucking site existed? Who uses Vimeo? It's an afterthought. Nobody fucking gives a shit about Vimeo anymore. Alex Jones gets kicked off by a site that ultimately is completely irrelevant in his tertiary backup presence. And he gets free publicity for hours and hours, and more people pile onto him in the App Store that actually matters and join him on his personal site to the point where it looks like, I'm hesitant to say it actually was like hacked. I think it got overloaded because so many people were visiting it. I think that Infowars.com did crash because it got overloaded. They've got too much popularity in too short a span of time. They're going to need more and better servers, apparently. Dyer, meanwhile, now, somebody who ultimately, he has a large presence, he has a significant platform. It'll grow now. Everywhere where he's not banned, it'll go in and it'll expand. It's just like with Infowars. They kicked him off of 90% of the internet, and Alex Jones has more fans than before. Just happens to be on different, more out-of-the-way platforms. Number 2, I believe, now on BitChute. I hit 25,000 the other day. I'm trying to get to 30 before I get overtaken by Infowars. My fans can help that happen. Hell, I'm branching out into Daily Motion. It's like we're living in a new internet as of literally the last, week or so. We're in a new internet, and these big tech firms, I'm telling you, you're gonna suffer in a couple of years and suffer for decades to come, probably fall out of existence if you abuse your user base based on a bunch of morons, a bunch of social justice pink-haired freaks and their corporate masters that they suck all the time. That's basically, you can do that, or you can just ignore them, basically. Just ignore them. Come out and say, yeah, we're gonna be a free speech site. No, we're not changing our TOS at all. We're doing just fine. No, none of you worried about this until a couple of years ago after you lost a fucking election, so get over yourselves. That's about all. Peace out.